Welcome. You are listening to Haunted Histories on Paranormal UK Radio. And hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of Haunted Histories on Paranormal UK Radio. Now, as you will have seen, I have been advertising quite a lot of events that I'm party to, or part of, technically I should say, on the Haunted Histories page. If you do fancy coming along to one of those, if you're in the UK, or if you, well, you can't really come if you're anywhere else but the UK at the moment because of flight restrictions, but yes, do come along. It would be great to see you and make sure you introduce yourself and all of that. As you know, I've got my new book out, Paranormal Playtime, The School That Never Sleeps. And funnily enough, we're going to be talking about The School That Never Sleeps tonight with my guest, but more of that in a second. And so it's been, the podcasts have been really, really enjoying doing them. I hope you're enjoying listening to them. We've got this year it's just got some cracking guests lined up for you, cracking podcasts lined up. I'm so lucky that people are willing to give up their own time to come and chat to me, and we put the world to rights before they come on air. And tonight's guest is no different. We've known each other a few years, and yes, there's a lot of love there, even though we do tend to take the mickey out of each other. He is one of the guys from GPS, which you probably know better as Barry Guys. Tonight is the wonderful, the lovely, the silent half of that duo, Mr. Phil Measey. Anyway, young man, how are you?
Yeah, it's going all right, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah? Good. Yeah. Talk about giving me lots. What have you been up to? Talk to me.
Well, other than working and sorting out some possible locations for later in the year. Mm-hmm. I mean, COVID sort of pretty much messed everybody up.
Yeah.
So we're probably not going to get out investigating to at least June, July, possibly August time.
Yeah.
Got some interesting private cases I'm looking into. But other than that, we can't do anything yet because we're not allowed to people's houses. No. So we're following the rules, which is difficult, I must admit. But I'm just looking into some private cases, and we've got a backlog of investigations and events that we need to do before looking into sort of later in the year.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, talking on a personal level, you know, as more than a lot of people, how careful you're having to be that this pandemic is not made up, shall we say. So
it's definitely not made up.
No, because you were poorly, obviously, with it yourself, and I
very ill.
Yeah, I think that there's so many sort of people who are like, it's not going to happen to me. I'm fine, blah blah blah, and that worries me. If I'm completely honest, that there's still people sort of thinking it's all over now. Not quite. No,
I don't think it's going. I don't think we're going to be rid of this for at least another year. I mean, I went the whole year last year, absolutely fine, and I work part-time in a school, so, you know, more chance of catching it there. And then one day before Christmas, walking up the road to go home, and then I don't remember anything to January 2nd.
I do remember
that whole of that. I'm completely wiped out. That apparently my wife told me that we had Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and most of Boxing Day together. But Boxing Day night, but I don't remember any of that. So,
you sure that wasn't the whiskey?
No, definitely not. Wish it would have been.
Hangover would have been less bad, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been.
So what do you think then? I mean, one of the locations that GPS, which stands for...
Ghost Finder Paranormal Society.
Thank you. One of the locations that they have, I don't know if you're the resident there, but you tend to do a lot there, is the Hellfire Caves. Obviously,
yeah.
And I was lucky enough to investigate with you guys there. Crumbs. Summer before last, wasn't it? I think.
2018. I think it was actually.
Was it 2000? It was summer 2019. Anyway, a while ago. Obviously, that place has been pretty shut up for the last 18 months or so. What do you guys think it will be like when you get back in there?
It's funny you should say that, actually, because I was actually speaking to the people that run the events there on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still not planning to open up the caves for at least to July, August, probably possibly September.
Right.
They're having a lot of work done down there, having new electrics put in, and they're hoping to get Wi-Fi down there. Not quite sure how that. I know. Not quite sure how that's going to work, but they're having a lot of work done down there in the time it's been shut. So I spoke to Jack, who's the guy that runs the sort of like events. Well, not runs the events, but he does the talks when we do the events there. And he said they're not looking at least August, September time at the latest.
It's one of those questions. I had someone ask Lee Roberts it recently about obviously his location, the village. And it's like, do we think that the lack of people going in is going to have re-energized? Or do we look at the fact that it's the people going into these places that act as the battery packs, so to speak, for the spiritual energy? Is it going to be less active for a while until the if you like, the levels start going back up again? And obviously with Hellfire being quite an active place. I mean, we had some fun there when I was there with you guys. The one thing I didn't get to see there, which I do want to go back and see, is that bit that's above ground, that's like almost like a memorial.
The mausoleum.
Yeah, I want to be able to get to see that next time I come along because it looks beautiful.
Well, if you've got a spare afternoon, drive up there. You can drive up there and just walk around.
Yeah, spare afternoon.
You can't. Yeah, you've got loads of time, Penny. Come on. Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. No, that's so I if I ever come up that way, because I have to cross over the UK. I'm east. We don't like crossing the borders. It scares us. I'm
lucky because I am only 20 minutes away. So
yeah, you are. You're in those neck of the woods, aren't you? But when I come back over there, because I thought I loved it. I loved walking the walk I did from the car park straight through the woods to the thing apart. It caned my lungs because it's all uphill the entire way. I just thought it was lovely. I'd quite happily explore there for a few hours. So I do want to see the mausoleum.
Yeah.
Next.
Getting back to
that where the heart was meant to have been. Wasn't that where he stored the heart? Yeah,
it's meant to be. Then it got stolen, didn't it?
Yeah. So that one looks an interesting one. But it's just one of those things with Hellfire, and in fact with Hellfire being underground as well, and you've got the rock and the stone tape theories and all those wonderful things. It would just be interesting to see how active it is when people first start getting back in there again.
Well, according to the people that are running it, they're having a lot of work down there, so maybe that will stir it up for people when they come back.
Maybe. So we just have to remember they have to be able to turn the Wi-Fi off when you're investigating. Otherwise,
the idea is that hopefully we'll be able to do lives down there if they have the good Wi-Fi connection.
But as well as I do, Wi-Fi units tamper with the equipment.
This is true.
You know that because you were on the investigation with me at Ettington when I spotted. It was actually my husband who thought of it a couple of months beforehand, but we realised it was a Wi-Fi booster that was causing the K2s to go off.
K2s are the worst things to use in them sort of areas anyway.
They're pretty light.
Yeah, pretty lights.
So one of the things you and I were talking about before we came on air is something that people probably don't realise about you is you've got quite an extensive paranormal CV. You've done quite a lot of TV work and stuff. Now I have to ask you, how do more people not know this? Why do you keep it so...
I don't know. It's not that I keep it quiet. I said because I'm part of GPS and a lot of the stuff I do is as a group or as a team. I've done the occasion. I mean, before Barry went off and done help and other stuff, we did a lot of stuff together. But yeah, I've done stuff for Japanese TV, the History Channel, Channel 5, Channel 4, BBC, lots of radio, lots of magazine interviews and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of television, even Iraqi television. We've done stuff for ABC in America, CBS. So, you know, NBC, just like little slots and programs, little fillers and stuff that's part of a package of a TV series or part of a show that's about the paranormal. So we get like a 10-minute slot, you know. I recently just did a interview for the full staff in Stratford and Avon. I'm not sure when that's going to be out. I'm not sure. It's going to be part of a new paranormal show for Sky TV.
Okay.
So about 6 different locations.
Cool.
So I'll probably have like about a 2-minute interview on that or something, which I was there for 4 hours almost. So, but
well, your link to Stratford is that you have your own antique shop there.
I look after an antique centre, and I've got my own little shop there. Yeah.
Have you ever?
I do that on a Monday.
Centre?
Sorry.
Have you ever investigated the centre?
I want to investigate it. I'm going to be talking to the people that own it. That if we can try and get in there.
Ask me to come.
Yeah, we'll let you come. So,
I love
it'll be interesting because it's never been investigated before.
Yeah.
But when I get there early in the morning, because I have to drive, obviously, so it takes a while to get there, so I need to park. But I've had the odd weird thing happen when I've been there in the morning, first thing.
Oh, I loved it in there. It's like it's a bit of a TARDIS, though, isn't it? With all the different stalls and things. And I took a friend in there who actually lives in Stratford, and she'd come to meet me because I think where had I been investing? That was that when I was doing Ettington. Would that have been Ettington? Could have been Ettington weekend, I think. She came.
Yeah, because it's near Stratford, isn't it?
Oh, it must have been. Yeah, I forget. Yeah. Old age. And she'd
to us all love.
She'd come to. We'd gone out for sort of for lunch anyway, and she wanted to show me around Stratford upon Avon, and we decided to find your antique centre. Unfortunately, you weren't working that day, but yeah, we were both absolutely enchanted and engrossed, and I didn't want to leave. I mean, I'd have quite happily sort of. This would have been was it January 2020? We did all Ettington, wasn't it? And I was up to work.
No, 19.
Was it? I thought it was beginning.
Wasn't last year.
I thought it was January last year.
No, I'm pretty sure it was.
Well,
before January.
Whenever. So, yeah, I know it was
sometime anyway.
I know it was January because it was quite cold outside when we had to stand around near the church. But it's all sort of that antique centre is wonderful. It's got such a lovely vibe to it, and obviously then with all the antiques that are in it as well. So not only have you got this beautiful old building, you've got all these different energies with all the different antiques and people coming in to look at them, and it's fantastic.
Well, there isn't actually a history of any kind of haunting there, but it's got this creepy vibe to it anyway. More so during the early morning.
Yeah,
when I'm there, than later in the evenings. So I am talking to the owners on Monday because I'm actually back up there Monday because starting to open again. So I am gonna talk to them about that because I'd love to be the resident person to do even if we did an investigation once a month would be great.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I loved it
because one's never been done there before. I've done a couple of EVPs, sort of like sneaky EVPs and stuff in the morning. I've caught a few weird things, so yeah.
No, I'd love to. I love that place.
But is it just going to be another haunted antique centre like there's so many about at the moment? So
yeah, but then again, it's an interesting one. I mean, I got given the chance to investigate an antique shop in Wymondham in Norfolk, near where my parents live. And the owner had given me permission to investigate it, but then with everything else, it didn't happen, and he ended up having to sell up. But, I mean, that building we know was 600 years old itself. And, you know, the woman who ran it, she was telling me about some of the things that happened, and she's in there. She goes, oh, this place is haunted. There's something in here because things move that I haven't moved.
Well, the antique centre is about the same age.
And I had I think I was downstairs in the basement area, and I just got this image, and I'd not been in it, and I just got this image of a woman on the wheel, the woolen spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel.
Yeah. And I walked around the corner, and guess what was sitting around the corner?
No, really?
Yes.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah. And I hadn't been down there. I'd never had the courage to go into this shop because it was such a lovely looking shop, and I always felt a bit sort of, it doesn't really, but I used to made a habit of going in there. Once I got to know them, I was going in there all the time. We were just trying to sort out a time when I could come and do an investigation when it wouldn't tamper with business. But yeah, I was down in the basement area, and there was like a partition wall, a proper thick wall. And I got this image on the other side was a woman with a spinning wheel. And I walked around, and there was an old spinning wheel there. That was a bit weird. But these places are just, there's so many amazing places. You don't have to go to the big name ones, do you? You can learn so much from anywhere. Which
exactly, you don't know what's, and you also, with an antique centre, you don't know what's been brought in and what's there.
Exactly.
What's attached to see if something's attached.
Exactly. Which brings me on to the place we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, I know you've been there a few times to the school.
4 or 5 times now?
Yeah.
About 5 times now.
Now, you were kind enough to send me some of your experiences, which people can't see that I'm doing this unless this goes into the best bits. But my book, Paranormal Playtime, there's a bit experiences that Phil gave me.
Yeah, there's a few bits there. Look.
There's a few little bits, yes. Now, would you say, now one of the things I say about this place, this school, when we're talking about the British School Museum in Hitchin, which anyone who's been following any of the interviews I've been doing, who's read my book, who's read any of the excerpts I've put up, will know that this was a school that was opened in 1810 for the poor children, those children who couldn't afford what I'd call proper education. It was based on what's called the Lancasterian monitorial method, which was pioneered by a guy called Joseph Lancaster in the late 1700s, etc., etc. But one of the things about this school that I say to people is, and I do think it's a she feels very feminine in her energy. She takes over you. She becomes part of you. You look forward to seeing her again. How would you agree with that? And how would you describe how the premises themselves has affected you in that respect?
I think when you see the building for the first time, it does draw you in. It's like, I want to go in there sort of thing. I'm not so sure about the she sort of thing, but there is that, you feel a connection with it. I don't know why you feel that way. You feel almost like you need to, it's almost like it is a seat of learning. I mean, if you was to look at the building and you didn't know it was a school and you felt like you was drawn to it, I mean, on the premise that you know it's a school, but it does draw you in to find out more. And I did find that when I walked in there, it's got that feeling of, I've got something I want to tell you, but I'm not going to let you know. You have to find out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I get that feeling every time I go there. It's almost like it's giving you a little bit, but it's not giving you everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like a learning process.
They want you to work for it. They want you to work for it.
Yeah, they want you to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good way of putting it. I mean, I know you may disagree with me about the fact that I think it's got a very maternal energy to me. It's got a very sort of, I don't think whatever's there would like it if they thought they'd scared you or upset you. Played a prank on you, yes, that sort of childlike innocence. But I don't think if you sort of burst into tears and said you were terrified, I just get this feeling that the building itself wouldn't want that. It wouldn't.
No.
And also, I mean, I don't get scared anyway. I've not found somewhere that's genuinely scared me. I'm the complete opposite there. I don't think it could scare me. I'm quite, I'd quite happily be there on my own at 2:00 in the morning, wandering about. As long as I had some.
The idea is that.
I just want to make sure there was somebody on the gate to stop any nasty people, real people, living people get in. But the building itself, I don't think she could throw anything at me that would upset me.
I don't think I've been upset or scared when I've been there. I've had some really weird things happen. So yeah, there is something about that location.
So what's been weird? What's the weirdest thing that you've experienced at the school?
I don't know if that's in your book or not. Was when we were upstairs. They've got this archives bit upstairs, haven't they?
The girls' corridor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we was in one of those archive rooms, and we were all. I think there was me, Barry, and Mark. I think it was. Not sure who was there. And we were up there doing an EVP session, and we were in that first room along that corridor, and we heard this massive bang in the corridor. Now, I captured that on EVP, the bang. It is really loud. Yeah. And we're all halfway through talking, and suddenly we're is anybody here? Bang! It's the way we all look at the same time.
Yeah.
And sort of stop. And it's in the corridor, definitely in the corridor. And if it wasn't in the corridor, it was in the stairwell. But it was definitely loud enough for all to hear. Definitely called it on EVP. And then I captured on EVP with something saying Valerie or Val.
Right.
Or something like that. Like a Valerie or Valerine or something beginning with a name beginning with V. And I caught that, captured that, and we played it back. We kept on playing the bang, and then you hear the voice afterwards. Obviously, it wasn't us because it was a woman's voice, which is even more strange. So
not really if it's the girls' schoolrooms, because they would have had female teachers. They wouldn't have had male teachers. There'd have only been women up there, girls. So a female voice in that part. I mean, it's funny that you had the bang, even though I had a similar experience, because I was there with the Paranormal Sisters, and there was a few of us doing a walk around with Sam Mason, the then manager. And we were actually in the corridor, and he was explaining to us the history of the building, the fact it was built sort of 10 years after the fire, etc., etc. And the bang we heard, again, was enough to make the floor go boom on us. You actually felt the vibration from the bang. It was that loud, because I think there was myself, there would have been Jo, Lisa. Sam didn't do the walk around because she doesn't like to know anything beforehand, as being a medium. I'm trying to think who else was with us. I can't remember now. But it was enough for all of us to suddenly go, wah! Because it was that loud. And it was near us. It wasn't outside. And where we thought it came from was, the curator's room at the far end where they do all the restoration type work.
Oh, right, okay.
That's
downstairs, yeah?
Yeah, and I went running up there to see if something had fallen, because it sounded like either someone had slammed a table down or knocked one over, and I went in there to see if anything had moved. Nothing had moved, but it was loud enough that all of us actually went, wah! And we said to Sam, is this normal? And he went, no, that's not one of the sounds, like a daily sound of the building. But exactly. Interesting, that was in the same, in effect, corridor that you heard.
Yeah, the long corridor upstairs. We was in the first room, and as you come up the stairs, there's that stairwell that sort of goes around, doesn't it? It's almost like in a...
Yeah, and then you've got another slight, sort of a three-quarter, not a full floor. Yeah, there's another sort of three-quarter floor, and there's another what would have been an office. I think it was his office or something like that.
So we was just along that corridor in that first large archive room.
Yeah.
And we're doing the EVP, and then you hear the bang. But the bang is either in the stairwell or it's on the stairs itself. It's not in the corridor. So you can identify the by the sound of it. If it had been in the corridor, it would have been loud. It would have been louder, and because it would have been nearer to us, and because the stairwell was quite away from the first room, it's not coming from downstairs. It's coming either on that stairwell or on the stairs itself. Yeah, which was weird.
I know when we did ours, we actually had our back to the stairs. We're standing in the corridor, so in between those classrooms, if that makes sense, in the corridor. And it came from in front of us. The band came from in front of us, and we were facing that end classroom at the end where the curator and stuff does all their sort of protection work on antiques and everything. But it was definitely loud enough that we couldn't explain what it was and why.
No, we couldn't explain it.
No,
we went to check. And there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing. The door downstairs was shut because it's on it's on a push button pad thing. You've got to have a pin pad to get in and out. So there's no way that would have been open. It's self-locking anyway. So
what about the classic that a lot of people have said, that everyone I've spoken to has said who's experienced stuff there has heard children laughing and giggling at times when there shouldn't be any children laughing and giggling. I mean, I had it at. Well, I've had it during the day as well, and I actually did double check with Denise, who's is the chair head trustee there. Was there anyone in the playground when I heard it? And she went, no, there was no one there. And I heard a young woman, older girl, if you like, laughing and giggling. But I also heard it, and I wasn't the only one who heard it when we were in the gallery classroom. You know, the staggered classroom that's opposite, if you like, the monitorials hall, and we heard children laughing and giggling, and went outside to think maybe it was the flats that are nearby, some kids. But then it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, what the hell would kids be doing out at young children laughing and giggling at 1 o'clock in the morning? What of those sort of experiences have you had?
Yeah, I captured in the large classroom, the hall up
the monitorial classroom.
Yeah. I captured an EVP in there. I don't think I've sent you that, actually. It sounds like people talking more than... You
did send me that one, yeah.
It sounds like a group... Oh, you've got that one. I can't make out what that says. I played it back 100 times. But it's definitely more than one person talking. It's almost like a group of people saying something to us, but I can't quite make out what it is. And I filtered the life out of that EVP, and I still can't make out what it is. I think when we hear the laughing and the kids and stuff like that, I think that's more a residual energy. Yeah, I don't think it's because obviously at 1 o'clock in the morning there wouldn't have been any children there at that time in the morning. So I think it's just possibly a residual playback of just an emotion.
No, I agree with you. I think it's residual. That's one of the things I've said to people. I think that is one of the residual things that happen there. And reason being is because A, the time it's happening, and B, they don't interact with you. When you sort of say what you're laughing at or tell us a joke, nothing happens. Yeah. Whereas I'd have expected it. Having children myself, if they're laughing because they're teasing you or something, but you can interact with them.
If it was intelligent, they would then. If it was an intelligent haunting there, it wouldn't be residual.
No.
So therefore, if it's an intelligent haunting, they are aware that you're there. I just think it's just a playback of over the so many years, over the and you're just lucky enough at that point in that time to be in that area, and you capture it over on EVP, or if it's a DVP, was the direct voice phenomenon, where you hear it with your own ears and then capture it on your voice recorder at the same time. I just think it's just pure luck if you do.
Well, those DVPs,
that you were there.
Those DVPs are a Barry special, aren't they? I mean, I know in our Hellfire, he said, "Did everyone hear that?" And I'm like, "No." We're all like, "No." And he plays back the recorder, and yes, it was what he'd heard, and it was like, "How did you hear that?" He's got
your ears
like hearing or something.
Yeah, but he is deaf. He is deaf in one ear, so therefore he's attuned his good ear to be more adept to hearing stuff.
It's amazing. I hope when I said to him, "You're like a dog," he knew I wasn't being rude.
Well, if he'd have bit you,
Woof,
you know.
woof.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, his ability to hear things as they happen, whereas most of us have to rely on it being played back to us. It does make me wonder, though, that because a lot of the arguments people say is, well, if it's actually happening, why does it have to only be picked up on a recorder? Now, I know there's different wavelengths they think maybe spirits communicate on, but I'm wondering if it is just the range our ears hear. Because children are meant to have a different range, aren't they? And our range is meant to decrease.
Yeah, between 20 to 20,000 hertz.
Yeah. So perhaps if we had like my 7-year-old along, he would hear things that we're not, that is being picked up on the recorders. And maybe that's why Barry hears, because of, like you say, he's deaf in one ear, his hearing range in that, the working ear, for want of a better term, is different. It would be interesting to mention what his range is.
Overcompensating. So, and there is that element where it is one of those questions asked by many people that work in the paranormal field. Is I do a recording, I hear absolutely nothing, and then when I replay my recorder back, there's a voice. So if my voice recorder is picking up, well, I'm not in. Well, because it's not in your hearing range, and your voice recorder is far more sensitive. So, I mean, I think that's the only logical explanation that you can. But some voice recorders are only set at a certain hertz. But yet, that the hearing hertz on some recorders, yet you still get a voice.
Yeah,
you've not
weird,
heard it.
isn't it? I know one of the things I want to use next time I go back to the school are like, I call them the super ears, but basically almost like a hearing aid where you can amplify what's being, because I have heard some amazing stuff using those. I know one place I was at, people thought they heard something go, but what I heard on this enhanced hearing thing, if you like, was someone giggling. That's what I heard. And that was actually what the psychic was picking up, but didn't say anything because they didn't want to influence. But with the enhanced hearing, I heard a giggle, a snorty sort of giggle, because we told a joke. People heard what they sort of sounded like a shuffle, whereas what I heard was sort of thing in my ear. So it would be.
My wife bought me one. My wife bought me one for Christmas, so I'm going to be trying that.
Yeah, I really want to have a go with those next time I go back to the school. Now, you mentioned that intelligent versus residual, or sentient beings versus residual, however you want to define them. Do you think there are actually intelligent, interactive spirits at the school?
It's a possibility. I'm not definitely going to say yes, because much of what I've experienced I feel is residual.
Right.
But I must admit, when I was in the headmaster's house with a group of people, then we was in the parlour where he was supposed to have died in a chair, and there was some, the old cups and saucers. They were hanging on the
dresser that's in there, isn't there?
Yeah, dresser. No, they didn't suddenly just fly off and swing or stuff like that. But you heard definitely, and we heard it more than once, someone like this.
Yeah.
Pinging the cups. You could hear them pinging. You could actually someone flicking, like someone was flicking it, like to get your attention.
Yeah.
And I caught that several times on EVP. But also everybody in my group, we all heard it at the same time. And it happened 3 or 4 times, I think.
Yeah.
When we was in there. And a couple of EVPs we captured in there. We got some REM pod action on the stairs when we was in the other room, which was quite interesting as well. I know that you don't actually like that house.
No.
You got... but
no, I'd say I don't like it. I always feel like I'm intruding when I'm in there. Even though...
Yeah, but but it's a house you're going to. So.
Yeah, but I'm one of those people. I'm used to going... It sounds weird to say this, but my day job, I'm used to going into people's houses. And so I can't, whenever I go into I'm saying this in inverted commas, haunted house, I always go in as if I was going into a client's home. I'll say, thank you ever so much for having me. Is it okay if I sit here? Yes, I will shut the door for you and make sure I, wipe, wipe my feet and all those sort of things I'd do if I was coming into someone's home, to show that courtesy, so that if there is someone still living there, you know, I'm being courteous. I'm doing the same politeness I would do as if it was just you, if I was coming into your home, for example. Yet all the times I've been into that master's house, I've always felt I'm not wanted there. I've always felt that it's like, not you again. And I do feel, I wouldn't say I feel in danger, or I feel like I have been places where I've thought I need to get out of here because something not great is going to happen. And that's only happened to me a few times, but I do have that. I've had that sixth sense. I don't feel that there. I feel more of I'm getting in the way. You know, I'm intruding, if you like. And I've rarely had that. Even in all the places I've visited, I've not had it as strong as I do in the master. Like, I feel like I'm literally, someone is following me around going, right, what are you going to touch now then? Sort of that kind of controlling sort of, yeah. So it's. Do
you think that's maybe because you might feel that you're the pupil and that's the teacher, headmaster,
possibly.
Sort of meant possible that way you're feeling that you're being taken back to your childhood, maybe?
Possibly, I don't know. I mean,
you feel like we only ever used to go to the headmaster's office when we were bad. And believe me, I spent a lot of time.
I never got called to the head's office. I was the good girl. Only time I got called to the head's office was when I wrote the school play, and I got called there to congratulate me, saying, "No, I was." But that could be also it, because of the fact that I was never in trouble at school. That maybe. I don't know. But I felt that way about that building before I even knew really I knew about the fact that Fitch had lived there for God knows how many years, and Fitch had died there, William Fitch being the head, who is the only person who ever lived in that building, because when he retired, the new head, Corbett, I think it was, didn't want he didn't want the house because he felt it was too small. It was too small, and it wasn't modern enough, because he wanted running water, and it didn't have running water. It didn't even have really an outdoor toilet. It was a hole in the ground, and he wanted more modern. So they rented a house nearby for him and let William Fitch stay in the house until basically he died. So he died. He was the only person ever to live there. And then I think after that, it became like a storeroom and staff room and everything for the school. So I didn't know any of that. I mean, this is one of the things that people were stunned when I didn't look up the history of this. All I looked up, I think, was when it opened, when it shut, and who Joseph Lancaster was. That when I first looked around there, that is really all I looked up.
You know more about that than I do, because I went there completely blind.
Yeah, but this is me.
All I knew. Yeah, I know. But usually when you go to a location for the first time, you have a relatively good idea of the activity. Now, I knew a little bit about the activity, but I didn't know that any history of any of the people. I didn't know any
activity.
Any of the teachers, any of the headmasters. No, I knew nothing.
Any of the activity. I had no clue about any of that. I had no clue. I mean, the fact I had no clue about the layout of the building shows in the first thing, the spookiest thing that happened to me there, which still I can't explain, was because the guys had got there before me, and I didn't know I could park there. So I parked in the pay and display that's just up the road. And so I parked up there on my own, couldn't work out where the entrance was. And, as you go in, and I've told this story, and this is hand on heart, this is the truth. As you go in, there's an entrance to one of the houses that's directly on your right as you go through the main gates. Well, there's a big window, isn't there? And then the front door, if you've got the window sort of there, the door is at right angles, if you like, to the window. The blind was up on the window. And so I'm trying to work out where do I find someone to tell me where to go? And I saw a woman bent over, looking at something in the window with her hair done up in that kind of Edwardian style where it's kind of bouffant with a bun on top. So I figured that was a member of staff. They might be able to tell me where to go. Front door, I turned it, walked straight in. It was open. So I turned it, walked straight in. I tried the door to my right as I went in. That was locked. The door to my left, which is one of the ones with those keypad things, turned the handle, door opened straight away, and I walked in. There's nobody there. I'm a bit kind of, hang on, I know I just saw someone through the window. Can't work out where they've gone. I'm thinking, oh, I'm in someone's office. I better get out in case I get in trouble. So I came out, shut the doors, just pulled them to, shut the gate that you have to go through to get to it, and found where everyone was in the main building. As I was talking to Sam Mason, the manager, I said, whose building's that? And he goes, oh, that's our offices. And I said, oh, the door's open. And he went, it's not. I went, it is, mate. I've just gone straight through the front door. And he goes, that's locked. It's always locked. We use the back entrance. We don't use the front door. And he goes, that can't be. And this was probably about half an hour, 40 minutes after I'd been in there. And I said, I just pulled it to as I'd left it, because it wasn't open when I went in there, but the handle was unlocked. I was able to walk straight in by turning the handle. And we went back there. It's locked, tight. Couldn't get in. And when I said to him that I saw a woman in the window, described it, he goes, I'm the only person here tonight. Well, Denise was there, but Denise is very tall with long blonde hair. He said, I'm the only person here tonight. Do you know what this building was? I was like, I'm presuming it was a house of some sort. And he went, it was the mistress's house. This was where the school mistress lived. And I'd seen a woman, hair up, bun.
Oh, nice.
In the window. I didn't know any of that when that happened. I didn't know. I didn't even realise how far back the school went. All I saw was the little building you see from the road. I didn't realise how far back everything.
Yeah, it goes way, way back, yeah.
So for me to see a woman with her hair up quite officially in a window, the fact that the doors, I was able to walk straight in when they were locked. Yeah.
You're haunted.
Well, haunted and historical. That's the thing. But
yeah.
I didn't know that at the time when I felt that foreboding in the master's house, what it had actually been. I didn't know that Fitch was the only one who'd lived there. I didn't know he had, I think it was 5 children. I didn't know he had one boy and the rest were all girls. I didn't know any of that. That's only when I started searching for the book that I found this kind of thing out.
It's when we was it's a sort of similar what happened to us when we was in the male cloakroom that leads to the toilets with the SLS, with the person looking through the window.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah, that was
weird.
Yeah,
because you could see the person, but you could only see half of the person. If that makes any sense. You could see the top half.
Yeah.
So usually on the SLS you see a complete figure, don't you? So whatever it was peering through the window.
Yeah.
Which was really, because it was childlike. So you could only see. So that was very strange.
Yeah. No. I do think there is sentient spirits there. I definitely think.
Yeah, there's a possibility. Yeah.
I've been able to, when something started happening, I've been able to say, "Can you stop doing that for a minute?" And it's stopped. Or I've asked a question and it's an intelligent answer has come through on the spirit box. When I was trying to I just start calling out random names and I was like, so-and-so here is so-and-so here is so, and I'm getting nothing that, no. And it was a real female voice and I was calling out female names. No, it was intelligent answer. It wasn't. So I do think there's, intelligent stuff there, but I do think there is an awful lot of residual and but as you say, the school
it's a school, isn't it? It's a school, isn't it? So there's going to be a lot of residual energy stored there. Wherever it's stored. Is it in the walls? Is it in the fabric of the building? Is it in the fabric of its time that you were just there at that point in time that something happened, you were lucky enough. You hit replay. And that peeking through the window, children peeking through the window, I've understood from other people that is quite a common thing that people have seen, children looking through the windows.
Right.
So, which would have been a thing back then because kids played in the playground. They always used to look through the windows, didn't they, and to see what was going on and stuff. So,
well, the interesting thing is the design of schools back then. I'm going to go into my nerdy history thing now. I looked at when they were building the Edwardian classrooms, the classrooms that are kind of on the side of where the big Lancasterian Hall is. When they put the plans to the local authority said, yeah, it's fine, but the windows are too low. And if you go upstairs to where the girls' bit was, you'll realise if you're sitting at a desk, you can't see out the window. The window is above. I mean, I can't actually see out the ones in the corridor, even on my tiptoes, because they're so high. And there was a reason they did that, and it was to stop kids staring out the windows and being distracted. So I would have thought that have windows that are their eye level would have been quite a novelty to be able to look in or look out of, because during the day when they were in class, the windows were deliberately set so that kids couldn't look out of them.
But if you look at the windows that are in the cloakroom area leading into those toilets, they are lower. Now, is that because over the years the ground's built up? Car park has been... Like I said, when on the SLS, I only saw the top of almost like the shoulders and the head.
Yeah. I know
it wasn't a full...
It has been changed. It was changed over the years because they actually had to lobby to get extra land to build more of a playground because they said there wasn't enough with all the new buildings that have been going on. So it has been changed a lot over the years, and there would have been more of a playground than what we see now. Because, I mean, you've got to bear in mind there were hundreds of children at this school, and especially at the beginning of the 20th century, they were getting them doing drills and stuff, like almost like military type drills to keep them exercised and all of that kind of thing. So it's possible, but I think it was more the fact that their day. And I mean, the other thing that people don't always realise is the school day back then was very long. It's where the old 9 to 5 term comes in. That wasn't a working day. That was a school day, 9 to 5. So, you know, they were expected to concentrate and eyes front and centre. And
they used to go to school on Saturday and a Sunday. So
yeah. They used to open it up on Sundays for those children who were too poor to come Monday to Saturday because they had to work. I mean, it's when you start reading about all this stuff and when you start reading about the area itself that the school was in, because... You know, I've worked in Hitchin. It was always quite an affluent area. And you think, why would they need a poor school? But then when you start going back to sort of clearance of the slums in about the 1930s, the area was dirt poor. You know, that area...
it was bad.
It was really bad. I actually write about it in the book because it's stunning how bad it was. And the fact you had these, what they called yards, which were basically back streets that were all around where the school is. And you would be having families of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus living in sort of 2-bedroom houses if they were lucky. So and apparently the smell, because people would be keeping their animals out the front of the house, they would be slaughtering their pigs in their yards, and
nice.
And I mean the other fact that I like to tell people is the fact the street wasn't originally Queen Street, it was Dead Street.
Yeah, Dead Street.
Known to the Dead Street School. So it's amazing that it has such a nice vibe.
Certainly something to aspire to, isn't it? Going to Dead Street School,
isn't it? Well, the thing is, though, just to go to school, it must have been magical for these kids to learn how to read and write. It must have been the world must have just opened up to them. That kind of childlike awe and I mean, but they weren't even allowed to be kids back then, weren't they? You know, they were expected to start making money at 7, 8 years old and
workhouses and.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you think about it in the workhouse, that once a child was 7, they had to go into a separate children's dorm. They weren't allowed to be with their mum anymore. And, you know, when I tell my boys that, I've got one of 7.5 and another of 11.5, they're always like, what? I wouldn't be allowed to be with you.
Yeah, no.
No? You'd be on
I watched Peterloo on... have you watched Peterloo on Amazon?
Right.
You know about Peterloo, yeah?
I know what
you know about Peterloo, yeah?
I know what it was, yeah.
Yeah, there's a pretty good... docudrama on Amazon about the lead up to what happened in Peterloo, and you see the poverty and what people went through back up in Manchester and sort of Lancaster and all Wigan and all that sort of area, and you see the abject poverty that people went through back then, and it's quite startling because the people that were running the government and the people that were the lawmakers, they were all saying, oh, these people are lazy. Why is it on a Monday? Why couldn't they do it on a Sunday? You know, stuff this March, and all these mill people that were saying, I'm losing money because no one's at work today and stuff like that. And it's very politically driven to actually just discredit that these people of just being lazy, when actually these were the people that were making millions back then. Well,
it's the social history, the social Victorian history, the way that it was done. I mean, you know, we could do a whole show just on that alone, really, because that is one of my babies, if you like. But when people think the workhouses were cruel, it wasn't so much they were cruel. They didn't want people to want to go to them. So they kind of had to make it as hard and as kind of foreboding as possible. They didn't want people to think it was the easy way out. You know, they wanted people to try everything before they turned up at the workhouse. And you couldn't just turn up at the workhouse asking for admittance. You had to go to the poor union first. But
it was sort of a last resort for people.
It had to. That's why it had such a stigma attached to it, for those reasons. Now, I'm not saying all workhouses were run brilliantly. They certainly weren't. But people hear about the bad ones. They don't hear about the ones that did actually save people's lives, that did actually give kids. I mean, the workhouse was teaching kids to read and write before it became. They were doing that back in the 1830s. I mean, all right, people like Lancaster and stuff started it even earlier, but it wasn't mainstream until much, much later. So I think that their heart was in the right place, albeit maybe there was different ways it could be done. But that hindsight's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But they did believe, they were very, very God-fearing. And this isn't Bible bashing, but if anyone thinks, they were very God-fearing back in the Victorian age. And they did believe that God determined where your status was. That's why people couldn't go from being poor to being rich. It didn't happen, because if that was the case, God would have allowed it. And when you think of like All Things Bright and Beautiful, the poor, the rich man at his castle, the poor man at his gate, God made them high and lowly. He ordered their estates. So it was preordained where you would be in life. It wasn't what you did to get there. But it was that kind of, you know, when they first started sort of bringing in educational type acts, like in the even with the Poor Law in the 1830s, when they sort of said, no, we need to break this, because if these kids, we need to get these kids out of the poverty trap. If they can learn how to read and write and count, they can get a better job. Therefore, if they can get a better job, they can afford to pay their rent. If they can afford to pay their rent, they can afford to send their kids to school to learn themselves. So they did want to break that cycle. But yes, they did think a lot of politicians were rich themselves, because, you know, it wasn't until I think the mid 1800s that you used to earn a salary as a politician. Before that, that's why you had like landed gentry become politicians, because they were sponsored by their families. They didn't know what it was like. They thought, you know, it was like, does poverty cause alcoholism, or does alcoholism cause poverty? And that they used to think that people were poor because they were alcoholics. They didn't think that maybe they were an alcoholic because they were poor and it was their way to escape. Because
of the poverty, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and it was cause and effect, and they were getting them the wrong way round a lot of the time. So it is very interesting to look at. And the whole Peterloo thing is, like I say, we could talk about that as a show in its own right. But the interesting that you mentioned the slums of like Manchester and places like that, but there was a guy.
Might be an idea for you to do a show on Peterloo.
Could very well.
It's a great subject. That, I mean, the way they did it, it was very well made, and I mean, what the local yeoman did to the common people, it was quite.
That was a lot of women and children as well, wasn't it?
A lot of women and children. It was more women and children got killed than men, actually.
But I've read about some of the different slums, and one of them being one of the ones in Manchester. And interestingly enough, coming back to Hitchin and how bad the situation was in Hitchin, there was what we would now know as an investigative journalist. He dressed up as a vagrant and travelled around, and he actually went to Hitchin, and he said Hitchin was the worst slum he had ever been to, and he had been to Birmingham, Manchester, London, all of the big ones. He said Hitchin was worse.
A lot of people, a lot of people think that the north was poor, but there was plenty of areas also. I mean, the south has always been associated with the affluents and the rich. But then, it's in theory, I don't. At that time in the Victorian era, I don't think there was much difference. It was the people that had the money, not so much the area.
Yeah.
I mean, the north was more industrial, and the south was more agricultural. So there was a big difference.
The problem that Hertfordshire had, really, I mean, Hertfordshire was silk mills, was the industry thing there, and lavender, would you believe? And in fact, they used to have to let the girls, especially at the schools, and I've seen this in the school logbooks, they used to have to give them time off in harvesting season so they could go and pick lavender, because they used to sell it. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing what they used to have to do. But yes, you're right. And part of the problem with Hertfordshire, it was quite backward in its agricultural stuff as well. It wasn't, it didn't have the machinery that some of the other agricultural places had. And so, yes, it was. It's hard to think when you look at Hertfordshire, which is now a suburb. It's a London home county. It's you don't. 2-bedroom house, you won't get any change out of £300,000 sort of thing. Back then, they were trying to. I know that there was a case I read. This is probably really boring for people, but I think it's interesting. They were trying to children who were in the workhouses who were orphans. The cotton mill operators and wool mill operators were trying to get the workhouses to move those kids to where the work was in the mills. And there was an application, I'm sure it was to Hitchin Workhouse, for like 30 children. And they wanted girls. They wanted them between the ages of like 8 and 11, all that kind of thing. And the master of the workhouse said, no, I'm not moving them 150 miles away just so they can be slave labour for you. Mm. And that, to me, is quite like, whoa, talk about putting one to the, these mill owners who were our equivalent of multimillionaires now. That other work,
they were the people that
were happy to do it because they'd have made money off it. But the Hitchin Workhouse said, no, we're not doing that. So I think it kind of, and then going back to the school, the kind of maternalness of the school and the kind of wanting to teach and wanting to educate, it kind of all ties in, really, because the people wanted to help the poor. They wanted them to. And I think that's really kind of quite groundbreaking, almost.
I think that's what draws you in, doesn't it? Like I said, it's almost like you're back there to learn something.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. What would your
you're almost like you're going back to school.
Yeah. So. Yeah, love it. I do love it. I quite happily be there all day. I mean, I've got a couple of, assuming everything gets opened in time, I'll be there on a couple of Saturdays over the school holidays so that people can come in and visit the school and learn about it. And if they want to pick up a copy of my book, Paranormal Playtime, I'm going to flog it to death, I tell you. If they want to pick up a copy, and I know you've got.
It's got to be done.
You've got a copy. That they can come and meet me. They can talk to what I found. I can tell them some of the experiences I had. Talking of experiences, you mentioned before we wrap up that you had heard a few of the paranormal stories that were told about the place. Now, I specifically didn't. I know, actually, that's one thing I genuinely never do, even when I'm doing an official investigation for someone. Like if you guys said, could you come along and do, I don't know, name a place that you'd like to investigate that's quite well known.
One I've already done?
No, just one I haven't. Name a place. Name a place.
Oh, God.
Put you on the spot.
Stratford and Avon, Falstaff.
Okay. So if you said to me, Penny, can you come into the Falstaff and do the history bit? So if we experience anything, you can tell us if there's anything historical that could back it up, right? Yeah. I do my research. And I would have all my notes and I'd have links to things and everything else. But one thing I won't have done is look up any reported hauntings, any experiences other people have had. I will not look that up. So, yes, I'm going in with ideas, so I might sort of say, if someone comes up with what question can we ask, I'll ask them who was on the throne. I'll know roughly who it should be if it's the right time period and all that kind of thing. But I won't know if, I don't know, King Henry V is meant to haunt there. That's not what I'll find out. But you said you knew a few of the stories from the school. What were some of the best ones that you'd read that people had happen? What
I haven't read any.
Stuck with you?
I haven't read any. It was almost like passed down hearsay. Now, I don't know if any of those had got exaggerated over the years, but the one about hearing children laughing and singing was one of the ones that many people said they'd heard over the years, which would be understandable. Children peering through the windows, raggedy children in rags, like unfed, unkept children, and the movement of stuff in the headmaster's parlour, things moving, like cups and saucers and tables and chairs, and I think there was a rocking chair in there. I think.
Yes, there is. It was in the corner of the parlour.
Okay, so people have said they've seen that move. So that's some of the stuff that I'd heard. What I experienced was definitely the cups pinging, not moving, not swaying backwards and forwards, not moving across the tables, not being thrown, but someone physically pinging with their finger nail, so you can hear it pinging. I definitely heard that, and we caught that on EVP. And then the talking, or almost people in groups of people talking, caught that on EVP and also heard that as well. And then the bangs, which was very strange. And then obviously EVPs of children's or people's names, which I've captured as well. So yeah, that's some of the things that are similar to what has happened to people, but this is what I've experienced.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, that's been, I'm looking at my clock, an hour. We've been chatting for, it's easy, isn't it?
2 hours.
Well, no, on air
2 hours.
Chatting for an hour, but we've been nattering.
Oh, right. All right, okay.
Yeah, anyone who knows me knows I do that. I either do that before or after I record a show, because it's nice to connect with people, especially when I haven't spoken to you since last summer, have I, Phil? So it's nice to sort of
like that,
yeah. When I think I spoke to you, I was staying at my parents', and that's when you gave me all the information for the book. So it's been a while, Mr. M. It's been a while. So have you got anything exciting coming up you want to tell people about, or is it literally a case of just watch this space?
We have, me and Barry are going to be doing something, a very small investigation at a very haunted pub. We're trying to book it, but it's only for a select amount of people. I think there's only like 10 people coming. Yeah. 10 people going. It'd be me and Barry, because it's such a small place. You can't get any more than that in anyway. Yeah. We're trying to book that up and try and get that sorted out before the summer. And we are trying to book Rowham as well, as it was originally going to be an event, but we're going to book it as a team only this time round. So due to the fact that we're not sure of the numbers of people that are going to be able to go, and because it's a relatively sort of large location, it's quite open. So we thought we'd just try and do it as a team only. So we're going to be booking that. I think we're going to do Fort Amherst as well. Nice. At some point.
Let me know about that one. The military magnet will come.
Okay, well, Fort Amherst we're waiting for them to give us some dates. And then they're not sure. And then, of course, we've got Hellfire Caves. Now, we've got quite a lot of backlog. I think we've got 4 possibly backlog of dates for that. in different investigations. I think we've got 2 events and 2 GPS ones, either team only or events. But we've got to do the caves ones first. So
definitely.
we've got all that lined up, and then I've got an interesting one that I'm a private investigation, which is quite interesting, and also a hotel that I can't tell you too much about, that I've had confirmation last year when COVID. I can't tell you about it because so there's a hotel that I've been in contact with that are interested in us coming in as a team to just do an investigation there.
Cool.
But I've got to reconnect with those two, just to confirm it.
It's nice to hear you're going to be busy. Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll be nice to be busy again.
Yeah. So. Thank you so much for being my guest tonight, Phil, and talking to me about the
You're very welcome.
Even though we kind of branched off into different subjects, hopefully people found them all very interesting.
Like we do.
I do like guests I can do that with and branch off into things and then come back and then go off again, because it's all about learning, isn't it? It's all about picking up new information.
It certainly is.
You might have people going, what the hell are the 2 of them on about with Peterloo? Well, go off and look it up. Go and it's all out there for you.
Exactly.
It's all out there for you. You know, we're talking about being in a school. Go and learn.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so thank you ever so much for being my guest tonight.
You are very welcome.
Do appreciate it. Obviously, if anyone wants to drop Phil a question, you can do that through myself, or go onto the GPS pages, or go and stalk him on Facebook. He's quite harmless, really.
Or on Facebook, or not so much on Instagram, or not so much on Twitter.
No, you're not on Twitter. You do share stuff occasionally if I tag you on Twitter, but I normally have to give you a nudge for the others.
I usually go on there like once every other week or something to see if there's anything interesting. But
but you can find him.
It's usually Instagram.
Okay. If he doesn't reply to you with a question, as long as it's a genuine question, come to me. I will shake him until he replies to you. But on that note, obviously, there's another show coming in 2 weeks' time. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you can wait and find out. I like surprising people with the shows I've got coming up at the moment. If anyone wants a copy of my book, if you're in the UK, you can get a signed copy directly sent to you. You just have to drop me a message and I'll let you know how to go about paying for it. If you're not in the UK at the moment, I can't do that, but it is on Amazon. It's quite easy to get hold of on Kindle and in kind of hard copy, paperback, whatever you want to call it. But on that note, thank you ever so much for listening to Haunted Histories on Paranormal UK Radio. Have a good evening, sleep tight, and don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.